What if success isn't something you chase, but something you attract by becoming the person who's ready for it? It's not about luck or waiting for the perfect moment. It's about clarity, mindset, and daily choices. The version of you that creates the life you want is already inside you. The shift begins the moment you stop waiting for change and start becoming the change. Are you ready to meet that version of you? In a few moments, I'll show you how to become the kind of person who naturally attracts success effortlessly. Get crystal clear on what you want. Success can't find you if you don't know what you're looking for. It's a simple truth that most people never fully grasp. We drift through life hoping good things will happen, waiting for opportunities to present themselves, expecting clarity to emerge from confusion. But here's what successful people understand. Clarity doesn't come from waiting. It comes from choosing. Vague goals create vague results. When you say you want to be successful or make more money or be happier, you're essentially telling the universe to surprise you. And the universe, being busy with 8 billion other requests, often delivers exactly what you asked for. A surprise that might not be what you actually wanted. You wouldn't get into your car and start driving without knowing the destination. We set resolutions instead of goals, wishes instead of plans, and then wonder why we end up somewhere we never intended to be. The first step to getting what you want is deciding what that actually is. Not what your parents want for you. Not what society says you should want. What do you want? What makes you feel alive? What kind of impact do you want to have? What does your ideal Tuesday look like? This isn't about perfection or having everything figured out. It's about getting honest with yourself about what matters most to you right now. Financial freedom might be your definition of success, or it might be the ability to travel the world, start a family, build something meaningful, or simply have enough time to read every book that interests you. There's no right answer, only your answer. The magic happens when you move from vague hoping to specific declaring. Instead of "I want to be successful," try "I want to build a business that allows me to work from anywhere while helping people solve problems I care about." Instead of "I want to be happier," try "I want to feel energized and purposeful with time for the relationships and activities that matter most to me." Write it down. There's power in putting pen to paper, in seeing your dreams transformed from floating thoughts into concrete words. Say it out loud. Hear yourself claim your vision. Make it so vivid that it pulls you out of bed in the morning with excitement rather than obligation, because clarity is power. When your goals are clear, your actions have direction. When your vision is sharp, your decisions become easier. You stop saying yes to things that don't align with your vision and start saying no to protect what matters most. The moment you get clear on what you want, life begins to organize itself around that clarity. Opportunities that align with your vision start appearing. People who can help you get there cross your path. Resources you need become available. And that's when the magic starts. When clarity transforms from a nice idea into the driving force that shapes your reality. Embrace the pain of growth. Growth doesn't come in comfort. It shows up in discomfort, in sweat, in the moments where you want to quit but choose to continue. If you're waiting for success to feel easy, you'll be waiting forever. The truth is, everything worthwhile requires you to become someone you've never been before. And that transformation isn't comfortable. Think about it. Muscles grow by being broken down and rebuilt. When you lift weights, you're literally creating tiny tears in your muscle fibers. It's in the recovery, in the rebuilding, that you become stronger. Your character works the same way. Your mindset follows the same pattern. Every challenge you face is breaking down old limitations, old beliefs, old versions of yourself. They can't handle what you're trying to achieve. Most people run from this process. They see discomfort as a sign they're on the wrong path. Pain is evidence they should try something easier. But here's what they don't understand. A pain isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. It's exactly how growth works. It's how you know you're pushing beyond your current capacity into new territory. The people who attract success aren't the ones who avoid pain. They're the ones who use it. They understand that every setback contains information. Every mistake carries a lesson. What needs to be strengthened? What needs to be learned? When you fail at something, your first instinct might be to feel embarrassed, to hide, to try to forget it happened. But successful people do the opposite. They lean in. They ask hard questions. What did I miss? What skill do I need to develop? What assumption was wrong? How can I be better prepared next time? This isn't about being masochistic or enjoying suffering. It's about recognizing that pain is temporary, but the growth that comes from working through it is permanent. Every time you push through discomfort instead of avoiding it, you're building something invaluable. Resilience. Resilience is the foundation of success. It's not about avoiding failure. It's about rising stronger each time. It's about developing the mental and emotional strength to handle whatever comes your way. When you can look at a setback and think, this is making me stronger, instead of this is happening to me, you've fundamentally changed your relationship with challenge. The most successful people you know have failed more times than most people have even tried. They've been rejected, criticized, disappointed, and defeated. The difference is, they didn't let those experiences define them. They let them refine them. So stop running from the pain, learn from it, sit with it. Ask, what is this teaching me? Because when you embrace the process instead of fighting it, something remarkable happens. You stop being afraid of challenges and start seeing them as opportunities. You stop avoiding discomfort and start using it as fuel. That's how you evolve into someone success respects. Not by avoiding the storms, but by learning to dance in the rain. Master your inner dialogue. Your mind is a battlefield, and the words you speak to yourself will either be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. Every single day you have thousands of conversations with yourself. Most of them happening so automatically, you don't even notice. But here's what you need to understand. Those conversations are shaping your reality more than any external circumstance ever could. The truth is, your thoughts are seeds. What you plant will grow. If you constantly tell yourself you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not worthy enough, don't be surprised when you start shrinking into that belief. Your subconscious mind doesn't argue with you. It simply accepts what you tell it as truth and then works tirelessly to prove you right. Think about how you talk to yourself when you make a mistake. Do you say things like, I'm such an idiot, or I always mess things up, or I'll never be good at this? Now imagine if your best friend made the same mistake and you said those exact words to them. You'd never do it, would you? Yet somehow we've convinced ourselves that being our own worst critic is normal. Even helpful. It's not helpful. It's destructive. Every time you speak negatively to yourself, you're programming your mind to expect failure, to look for evidence of your inadequacy, to sabotage your own efforts before you even begin. But when you start speaking life into yourself, I am capable, I am worthy, I am becoming something profound shifts. You begin to act in alignment with those beliefs. You stop sabotaging yourself. You stop waiting for permission from others to pursue what you want. You become your own source of motivation, your own cheerleader, your own source of strength. This isn't about positive thinking or pretending everything is perfect. It's about changing the fundamental story you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. Instead of, I'm not good at presentations, try, I'm learning to communicate more effectively. Instead of, I always fail at this, try, I'm developing the skills I need to succeed. The shift from victim language to empowered language changes everything. I have to becomes I get to. I can't becomes I'm learning how to. I'm not ready becomes I'm preparing myself. These aren't just words. They're the building blocks of your identity. Start catching the lies you've been telling yourself and replace them with truth. When you notice yourself engaging in negative self-talk, pause, ask yourself, is this helping me grow? Is this moving me closer to who I want to become? If the answer is no, consciously choose a different thought. Speak to yourself with the same kindness and power you'd give to someone you love. Because the most important voice in your life, the one that's with you from the moment you wake up until you fall asleep, is your own. Make it a voice that builds you up, not one that tears you down. Make it a voice that believes in your potential, not one that limits your possibilities. Your inner dialogue is your superpower. Use it wisely. Build a morning routine that sets the tone. How you start your day matters. It's the opening chapter to every story you'll write for the next 24 hours. Think about it. You wouldn't start reading a book from the middle or begin a movie halfway through, yet most people stumble into their mornings without intention, letting circumstances and other people's urgencies dictate their energy and focus from the moment they wake up. The most successful people in the world don't stumble into their mornings. They own them. They understand that the first hour of your day is sacred territory. It's when your mind is most open, most receptive, most capable of setting the trajectory for everything that follows. It creates space before the world makes demands, before everyone else needs something from them. This isn't about becoming a morning person if you're naturally a night owl. It's about becoming intentional with however much time you have before the world wakes up and claims your attention. Maybe you wake up at 5 a.m. to meditate and journal. Maybe you wake up at 8 a.m. and spend 20 minutes reading something that inspires you. The time isn't what matters. The intention is your morning routine, is your personal preparation ritual. It's how you prime your mind for success before you face the challenges of the day. Maybe that means journaling to clarify your thoughts and intentions. Maybe it's reading something that expands your perspective. Maybe it's meditation to center yourself, or movement to energize your body, or goal setting to focus your priority. Whatever it is, make it intentional. Make it yours. Don't copy someone else's routine because it works for them. Create one that serves who you're becoming. The key is consistency over perfection. It's better to have a simple 15-minute routine you do every day than an elaborate hour-long routine you do once a week. Because the first hour of your day is when your mind is most open. Don't feed it chaos. Feed it vision, energy, focus. Feed it the thoughts, ideas, and energy that will serve your goals. A powerful morning leads to powerful decisions. When you start your day with intention, you carry that intention into every choice you make. You're less likely to get derailed by distractions because you've already connected with your purpose. You're more likely to make decisions that align with your goals because you've reminded yourself what those goals are. Stack your mornings with small wins, and those wins will compound. Make your bed. Complete a short workout. Read 10 pages of a book. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. These might seem insignificant, but they're not. They're deposits in your confidence account. They're proof that you can follow through on what you commit to. Day after day, your morning becomes your launch pad. Not into just productivity, but into purpose. It becomes the foundation that everything else is built on. The ritual that transforms you from someone who reacts to life into someone who creates. Protect your environment. You become what surrounds you. This isn't just a feel-good saying. It's a fundamental truth about how human beings develop and evolve. Your environment shapes your thoughts, influences your decisions, and ultimately determines the trajectory of your life. If you're always around negative people, consuming toxic content, or living in uninspiring spaces, don't be surprised when you feel drained and unmotivated. Energy is contagious. Walk into a room full of complainers, and you'll find yourself complaining. Spend time with people who constantly talk about their limitations, and you'll start believing in your own. Surround yourself with those who gossip, criticize, and tear others down, and you'll unconsciously adopt those same patterns. But here's the flip side. So is vision. So is ambition. So is the belief that better is possible. When you spend time with people who are growing, building, creating, and pushing boundaries, their energy becomes your energy. Their standards become your standards. Their belief in what's possible expands your own sense of what you can achieve. This is why you must choose carefully. Your inner circle isn't just about friendship. It's about who you're becoming. Fill your space with people who believe in better. People who challenge you, not coddle you. People who see your potential, even when you can't see it yourself. People who ask hard questions, hold you accountable, and refuse to let you settle for less than you're capable of. But your environment isn't just about people. It's about everything that surrounds you. The content you consume, the spaces you inhabit, the habits you've normalized. Fill your mind with content that lifts you. Read books that expand your thinking, clean up your environment. Declutter your space, organize your surroundings. This isn't about perfectionism. It's about creating an environment that supports the person you're becoming. When your space is chaotic, your mind follows suit. When your environment is intentional, your thinking becomes clearer. Make your space reflect the future you want, not the mess you're trying to leave behind. If you want to be a writer, create a writing space that inspires you. If you want to be healthier, organize your kitchen to support better choices. If you want to be more focused, eliminate distractions from your workspace. Your physical environment sends signals to your subconscious about who you are and what you value. A cluttered, disorganized space whispers that you're someone who accepts chaos. A clean, intentional space declares that you're someone who values order and purpose. Remember this. Your environment either nourishes your growth or strangles it. There's no neutral ground. Every person you spend time with, every piece of content you consume, every space you inhabit is either moving you closer to your goals or further away from them. To ask yourself daily, is my environment helping me become the person who attracts success or keeping me stuck? Then make the changes necessary to ensure your environment becomes your ally, not your enemy. Take 100% responsibility. No one's coming to save you, not your parents, not your boss, not the government, not some perfect opportunity that's going to fall into your lap. The sooner you accept that your life is your responsibility, completely, totally, unequivocally yours, the sooner you take your power back and stop waiting for someone else to fix what's broken. This is perhaps the hardest truth to swallow because it's so much easier to point fingers. It's comfortable to blame your circumstances, your upbringing, your lack of connections, your bad luck, the economy, your ex, your current situation. Blame feels safe because it removes the pressure from you to do something about it. If it's not your fault, then it's not your job to fix it, right? Wrong. Blame is easy, but it leaves you powerless. Excuse us, feel safe, but they keep you stuck. When you give away responsibility for your life, you give away your power to change it. You become a victim of circumstances instead of the architect of your future. You wait for conditions to be perfect instead of creating the conditions you need. Ownership gives you the keys. The moment you accept that you are 100% responsible for your life, not what happened to you, but what you do with what happened to you, everything changes. You stop asking why me and start asking what now. You stop looking for someone to blame and start looking for something to do. Own your time. Nobody else is managing your schedule, your priorities, your choices about how you spend your most precious resource. Own your choices. Every decision you make, from what you eat for breakfast to what you do with your evenings, is yours. Own your results. If you're not where you want to be, it's because of the choices you've made and the actions you've taken or failed to take. This isn't about beating yourself up or taking responsibility for things genuinely outside your control. It's about recognizing that even when bad things happen, and they will, you still have the power to choose your response. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control what you do about it. When something goes wrong, don't ask who's to blame, ask what can I do. That mindset shift alone is a game changer. It transforms you from someone who reacts to life into someone who creates solutions. It turns problems into opportunities for growth and setbacks into comebacks. Because when you take full responsibility for your life, you take full control. Not control over external circumstances, but control over your responses, your choices, your energy, your focus. You stop being at the mercy of what happens and start being the force that makes things happen. That's when change starts. That's when success starts showing up, not because it was handed to you, but because you created the conditions for it to arrive. You stopped waiting for permission and started taking action. You stopped making excuses and started making progress. Become obsessed with learning. The world is changing fast, and if you're not learning, you're falling behind. What got you here won't get you there. The skills that made you successful 5 years ago might be obsolete today. The strategies that worked last year might fail this year. The only way to stay relevant, competitive, and valuable is to never stop growing. Success is reserved for the curious. The committed, the ones who never stop asking, what can I learn from this? These are the people who see every experience as data. Every failure as feedback, every interaction is an opportunity to understand something new. They don't just go through experiences, they grow through them. The moment you think you know enough is the moment you start becoming irrelevant. The most successful people in every field share one common trait: they're students for life. They read voraciously, question constantly, and remain humble enough to learn from anyone, including people younger than them, people with different backgrounds, even people who disagree with them. Make learning a daily ritual. Not something you do when you have time, but something you prioritize because you understand its compound value. Read books that challenge your thinking. Study people you admire, not just their successes, but their failures, their processes, their daily habits. Watch how they handle pressure, how they make decisions, how they recover from setbacks. But here's the key: don't just consume information. Transform it. Information becomes transformation when you apply it. You can read every business book ever written, but if you never implement what you learn, you're just an informed person stuck in the same place. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. The beauty of learning is that you don't need hours each day. You just need consistency. And pages before bed. One new idea applied to your current challenges. Small doses of learning consistently applied create massive transformation over time. Do that for a year and you'll be stunned at who you become. The person who reads 10 pages a day will finish 18 books in a year. The person who learns one new concept daily will have 365 new tools in their toolkit. The person who applies one idea weekly will have implemented 52 improvements in their life for business. Most people overestimate what they can learn in a day and underestimate what they can learn in a year. They try to consume everything at once, get overwhelmed, and quit. Don't make that mistake. Start small. But start today. Make learning as automatic as brushing your teeth. The difference between where you are now and where you want to be isn't talent, luck, or connections. It's what you know and how you use it. The gap between your current reality and your desired future can be bridged by the knowledge you gain in the wisdom you develop. So become obsessed with learning. Not just to get smarter, but to get better. Because in a world that never stops changing, the learners inherit the future. Let go of what no longer serves you. You can't move forward holding on to dead weight. This is one of the hardest truths to accept because we're creatures of attachment. We hold on to things, people, habits, beliefs, possessions, long after they've stopped serving us. Sometimes long after they've started hurting us. We do this because letting go feels like loss. Even when what we're holding on to is actually holding us back. Whether it's old habits that no longer align with your goals, limiting beliefs that keep you small, toxic people who drain your energy, or outdated dreams that no longer inspire you. Some things need to be released for new things to grow. Your life has finite space, finite energy, finite time. Every minute you spend on something that doesn't serve your growth is a minute you can't spend on something that does. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means making space for clarity to emerge from confusion, space for opportunity to find you, space for growth to happen naturally instead of being forced. When you release what no longer serves you, you create a vacuum that life rushes to fill with something better. Think of a tree shedding leaves in autumn. It's not dying, it's preparing, shedding what it no longer needs so it can conserve energy for what matters most. Surviving the winter and blooming again stronger in spring. The tree doesn't mourn the fallen leaves or try to reattach them. It trusts the process of release and renewal. You need to learn to trust that process too. Sometimes the job that once excited you becomes the prison that constrains you. Sometimes the relationship that once brought joy becomes the source of constant stress. Sometimes the goals that once motivated you become the obligations that exhaust you. This isn't failure. It's evolution. The person you were when you set certain goals formed certain habits or entered certain relationships may not be the person you are now, and that's okay. Growth means outgrowing things that once fit perfectly. It means recognizing when something that was once right for you is now wrong for you. So ask yourself, What do I need to let go of to become who I'm meant to be? What habits are keeping me stuck in old pattern? What beliefs are limiting my potential? What relationships are draining my energy instead of fueling my growth? What commitments am I honoring out of obligation rather than inspiration? The answer may hurt. Letting go often does, but growth often starts with release. You can't plant new seeds in soil that's already full. You can't write a new chapter while obsessing over the old one. You can't become who you're meant to be while clinging to who you used to be, and you can't soar carrying what was meant to be left behind. The eagle doesn't carry its old feathers. The butterfly doesn't drag its cocoon. They release what served them in one season to embrace what will serve them in the next. Your turn to let go. Your turn to make space. Your turn to trust the process of release and renewal. Develop unshakable self-discipline. Discipline is freedom in disguise. This sounds paradoxical at first. How can restriction create freedom? But here's the truth. Discipline is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. It's the bridge between intention and action, between wanting something and actually making it happen. Most people think discipline is about punishment, about forcing yourself to do things you hate. But real discipline isn't about self-torture. It's about alignment. It's about doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it because you're committed to something bigger than your momentary comfort. It's about choosing your future self over your present impulses. Discipline is built in the small moments, not the grand gestures. It's forged when you wake up on time instead of leaving snooze. When you finish what you start instead of leaving projects half done. When you choose focus over distraction, progress over procrastination, action over excuse. These moments seem insignificant, but they're everything. Every disciplined choice is a vote for the person you want to become. When you choose to work out instead of watching TV, you're voting for health. When you choose to save money instead of spending impulsively, you're voting for financial freedom. Your life is shaped by these small, daily votes. Think of discipline like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. The more you practice doing things you don't want to do, the easier it becomes to do them. What feels impossible today becomes automatic tomorrow. What requires tremendous willpower now becomes effortless habit later. Most people rely on motivation, but motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. Some days you feel motivated, energized, ready to conquer the world. Other days you feel tired, uninspired, unmotivated. If you only act when you feel motivated, you'll only succeed sporadically. Here's the secret. Motivation may fade, but discipline stays. Discipline doesn't depend on how you feel. It depends on what you've committed to. It's the steady force that keeps you moving forward when motivation has left the building. It's what makes you consistent when consistency is the only thing that matters. When you build discipline, you build something even more valuable: trust in yourself. Every time you follow through on a commitment you've made to yourself, you strengthen the belief that you can be counted on. You prove to yourself that your word means something, that your goals aren't just wishes, but promises you intend to keep. And when you trust yourself, when you know that you'll do what you say you'll do, you become unstoppable. You stop making excuses because you know you'll find a way. You stop doubting your ability because you have evidence of your reliability. You stop settling for less because you know you have the discipline to achieve more. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's about showing up, especially when you don't want to, because that's when discipline matters most. Stay grateful while you grind. Gratitude doesn't mean settling. This is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of gratitude. The fear that appreciating what you have will somehow diminish your drive to achieve more. But real gratitude isn't about accepting less than you deserve. It's about recognizing how far you've come while reaching for what's next. It's about honoring your progress while maintaining your hunger for growth. Too often we focus so much on the gap between where we are and where we want to be that we forget to honor the growth we've already achieved. We become so obsessed with the destination that we miss the transformation happening along the journey. We dismiss our current reality as not good enough while chasing a future that always seems just out of reach. This mindset is exhausting. It turns success into a moving target, happiness into a conditional promise, and the present moment into something to be endured rather than experienced. You end up living in a perpetual state of not yet successful enough, not yet wealthy enough, not yet accomplished enough to feel satisfied. But here's what happens when you shift into gratitude. Everything changes. Gratitude grounds you. It anchors you in the present moment and reminds you that even in the middle of the storm, there's always something worth appreciating. It doesn't blind you to your challenges or make you complacent about your goals. Instead, it gives you a foundation of strength from which to face those challenges and pursue those goals. When you operate from gratitude, your energy shifts. Instead of the frantic, desperate energy of someone who's never satisfied, you develop the calm, confident energy of someone who knows they're already blessed and becoming more blessed. This isn't just spiritual talk. It's practical reality. People feel this energy. They're drawn to it. They want to work with you, help you, be around you. Opportunities respond to grateful energy too. When you approach situations with appreciation rather than desperation, you make better decisions. When you negotiate from a place of gratitude rather than scarcity, you create win-win scenarios. When you lead with thankfulness rather than entitlement, you inspire others to support your vision. You begin to attract more of what you're thankful for. This isn't magic. It's psychology. When you're grateful for the opportunities you have, you notice more opportunities. When you appreciate the people in your life, you build stronger relationships that create more connections. When you're thankful for your current resources, you use them more wisely and create more abundance. But here's the key. Don't wait until you've made it to feel grateful. Start now. Be grateful for the struggle because it's making you stronger. Be grateful for the rejections because they're redirecting you toward better opportunities. Be grateful for the setbacks because they're teaching you resilience. Be grateful for the uncertainty because it's teaching you faith. Success isn't just about reaching the peak. It's about learning to love the climb. The peak is just a moment, a brief celebration before you set your sights on the next mountain. But the climb is where you spend most of your time. It's where you develop your character, build your skills, and discover what you're truly capable of. When you can find gratitude in the grind, you've discovered something more valuable than any external achievement. You've learned to be happy while you hustle, content while you create, and thankful while you transform. That's not just success. That's mastery. Stop waiting, start becoming. There's a moment in everyone's life when they look in the mirror and realize they're waiting. Waiting for the perfect time, waiting for someone's approval, waiting until they feel ready, waiting for the stars to align, for fear to disappear, for confidence to magically appear. We tell ourselves we're being strategic, being smart, being careful. But if we're honest, we're just being scared. The truth is success doesn't wait. Life doesn't wait. While you're sitting there analyzing, planning, and preparing, life is happening. Opportunities are passing by. The person you're capable of becoming is stuck in limbo, waiting for you to give them permission to emerge. But here's what you need to understand. That permission doesn't come from outside. It doesn't come from your boss, your parents, your friends, or some external validation. It comes from you. And the person you're capable of becoming, they're waiting on you. They're waiting for you to stop making excuses and start making moves. You don't become successful by hoping one day you'll feel like it. Feelings are unreliable. They come and go based on your mood, your energy, your circumstances. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll be waiting forever. You become successful by becoming the kind of person who takes action before the feeling arrives. You develop the discipline to move forward despite fear, uncertainty, and imperfect conditions. Think about it. Seeds don't wait for sunshine to start growing. They break through the dirt first, reaching toward the light. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They work with what they have, pushing through darkness, resistance, and uncertainty. They understand that growth requires action, not ideal circumstances. You've got to be willing to move through the discomfort, the fear, the uncertainty. That's where the transformation begins. Not in comfort, not in certainty, but in the messy middle where you're not sure if you're doing the right thing. But you're doing something anyway. That's where you discover what you're made of. The waiting trap is seductive because it feels safe. It feels responsible. It feels like you're being smart by waiting for the right moment. But the right moment is a myth. There will always be reasons to wait. There will always be something you don't know. Something you're not prepared for, something that could go wrong. Start before you're ready. Speak before you're confident. Act before you're certain, because readiness is a byproduct of motion, not a prerequisite. You don't get ready and then start. You start and then get ready. You don't become confident and then speak up. You speak up and then become confident. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once a disaster. Every success story started with someone who was unqualified, unprepared, and uncertain, but willing to begin anyway. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They didn't wait until they felt ready. They started where they were with what they had and figured it out as they went. The most powerful decision you can make is to stop waiting and start becoming right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel more confident or have more resources or know more about what you're doing. Now, because the person you're meant to become isn't waiting for perfect conditions. They're waiting for you to take the first step, to make the first move, to begin the journey of becoming who you're truly capable of being. Stop waiting, start becoming. The world is waiting for what you have to offer. Your identity shapes your reality. You will never consistently outperform the way you see yourself. This is one of the most profound truths about human potential. And it's the invisible barrier that keeps most people stuck. You can set ambitious goals. You can build productive habits. You can learn new skills and develop better strategies. But if your identity is still stuck in the past version of you, if you still see yourself as someone who can't, won't, or doesn't, then self-doubt will always pull you back to what feels familiar. Your identity is the story you tell yourself about who you are. It's the collection of beliefs, experiences, and assumptions that form your sense of self. And here's the critical part. Your identity doesn't just describe your reality. It creates it. Your brain works tirelessly to make your actions consistent with your identity. If you see yourself as lazy, you'll find ways to be lazy. If you see yourself as unlucky, you'll notice all the ways life isn't working for you. If you see yourself as someone who starts things but never finishes them, you'll unconsciously sabotage your own progress. This isn't conscious. You're not deliberately undermining yourself, but your subconscious mind has one primary job: to keep you consistent with who you believe you are. It will filter information, influence decisions, and guide actions to maintain alignment with your identity. If success feels inconsistent with yourself in peach, your subconscious will find ways to return you to familiar territory. Success isn't just about doing more. It's about becoming more. It's about evolving your identity to match your aspirations. You can't think your way into a new identity. You have to act your way into it. But you also can't sustain new actions if they conflict with your fundamental sense of who you are. This is why identity work is so crucial. It starts by upgrading the image you carry of yourself, not through positive thinking or affirmations, but through honest self-reflection and intentional identity designed. Who do you need to become to achieve what you want? What beliefs would that person hold? How would they see themselves? What would they do differently? Stop saying, "I'm lazy," or "I'm not that smart," or "I've always been this way." These aren't facts. They're anchors. They're stories you've told yourself so many times that they feel true. But they're not immutable truths about your character. They're just thoughts that have been repeated until they became beliefs. Those words aren't truth. They're anchors keeping you tethered to an outdated version of yourself. And you can cut the rope. You can choose different words, different stories, different beliefs about what you're capable of. This isn't about lying to yourself or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about recognizing that your identity is more flexible than you think. Start seeing yourself as the kind of person who follows through, who learns fast, who adapts, who finds solutions, who creates opportunities, who takes responsibility, who grows from setbacks. Not because you're perfect, but because you're committed to becoming better. The language you use to describe yourself matters. Instead of, "I'm not good at this," try, "I'm learning this." Instead of, "I always procrastinate," try, "I'm developing better time management skills." Instead of, "I'm not a morning person," try, "I'm experimenting with morning routines." Small shifts in language create small shifts in identity, and small shifts in identity create massive shifts in behavior. Because the actions of someone who believes in themselves are drastically different from the actions of someone who doesn't. Confident people take more risks. They speak up more often. They persist longer. They bounce back faster. They see opportunities where others see obstacles. Not because they're inherently different, but because their identity supports different choices. Your identity is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Get the foundation right and everything else becomes possible. Get it wrong and even your best efforts will feel like pushing a boulder uphill. The question isn't whether you can change your identity. It's whether you're willing to. Energy is your greatest asset. You can have all the time in the world, but if your energy is drained, your potential is capped. Time is a finite resource, yes, but energy is what transforms time into results. You can sit at your desk for 8 hours, but if you're running on empty, those 8 hours produce minimal value. You can have an entire weekend free, but if you're mentally exhausted, that time disappears without meaningful progress. Time without energy is just existence. Energy with time is execution. Energy is the fuel that drives execution. It's what turns ideas into actions, plans into reality, potential into performance. Without energy, your best strategies remain theoretical. Your biggest dreams stay dormant. Your most ambitious goals collect dust. You become a person who knows what to do, but lacks the vitality to do it. And here's the problem. Too many people protect their schedule, but not their energy. They guard their calendar jealously, blocking out time for important tasks, scheduling every hour of their day. But they completely neglect the fuel that makes those scheduled hours productive. They eat processed food for lunch, then can't understand why they crash at 3 p.m. They surround themselves with negative people, then feel depleted by evening. Your energy determines your presence. When you're energized, you're fully engaged, mentally sharp, emotionally available. People feel your vitality. They're drawn to your enthusiasm. They want to work with you, learn from you, be around you. But when you're depleted, you're going through the motions. You're physically present, but mentally absent. You're reactive instead of proactive, surviving instead of thrive. Your presence determines your impact. The quality of your energy directly affects the quality of your relationships, your work, your decisions, your influence. High-energy people create high-energy environments. They inspire others. They see possibilities. They take action. Low-energy people create low-energy environments. They drain others. They see problems. They postpone action. So the question becomes, what are you doing to protect it? Energy management isn't just about getting enough sleep, though that's crucial. It's about becoming intentional with every choice that affects your vitality. It's about recognizing that your energy is finite and treating it as your most valuable resource. Are you getting enough rest? Not just sleep, but true rest. Mental, emotional, and physical recovery. Are you honoring your body's natural rhythms? Are you constantly fighting against them? Are you creating space for stillness? Or are you always on? Rest isn't lazy. It's strategic. It's the foundation of sustained high performance. Are you feeding your mind with garbage or inspiration? Your mental diet is just as important as your physical diet. What you consume mentally, the news, conversations, books, directly impacts your energy levels. Consuming negative, toxic, or meaningless content depletes your mental energy. Consuming positive, educational, or inspiring content fuels your motivation and creativity. Are you surrounded by people who charge your spirit or drain it? Some people are energy vampires. They complain constantly, criticize everything, and approach life with a scarcity mindset. Others are energy givers. They're optimistic, supportive, and focused on growth. The people you spend time with have a massive impact on your energy levels. Choose wisely. You don't need more time. You need vitality. Most people think their problem is time management, but it's actually energy management. When you're energized, you accomplish more in 2 focused hours than you do in 8 distracted ones. When you're depleted, even simple tasks feel overwhelming. Think of your energy like a bank account. Every choice is a deposit or withdrawal. Sleep is a deposit. Exercise is a deposit. Eating junk food is a withdrawal. Spending time with positive people is a deposit. Engaging with toxic people is a withdrawal. Reading something inspiring is a deposit. Consuming negative news is a withdrawal. The goal isn't to eliminate all withdrawals. That's impossible. The goal is to be intentional about your deposits and withdrawals to make more deposits than withdrawals. To recognize when your account is running low and take action to replenish it before you're completely drained. Your energy is your greatest asset. Guard it fiercely, invest in it consistently. Because everything else in your life, your relationships, your career, your impact, your happiness, depends on it. Time is what you have. Energy is what you do with it. Success is rarely loud. It doesn't shout, sparkle, or announce itself with grand gestures. Instead, it builds itself quietly in the background, formed by routine, shaped by repetition, and solidified through discipline. The world often celebrates the final product, but the real work happens long before the applause. Most people look for peak moments. The big win, the lucky break, the overnight transformation. But those are just highlights. The truth, real achievement is the result of showing up again and again, especially when nothing exciting is happening. While others chase motivation, those who succeed lean into consistency. They've learned that progress lives in the mundane, in the small tasks, in the moments no one notices. Picture a brick layer. One brick doesn't seem like much. It's just a single motion, repeated with care. But, layer by layer, a wall rises. Day after day, a structure takes form. And over time, without fanfare, something solid stands where nothing existed before. This is how habits work. This is how mastery is born. Motivation might get things started, but it won't carry anything across the finish line. It fades, it's fleeting. When the novelty wears off and the emotional high disappears, the only thing left is discipline. And discipline thrives in routine. It shows up on rainy days, on restless mornings, in low moods and quiet weeks. Discipline does the work, whether anyone's watching or not. Those who grow, improve, and achieve do so by committing to the ordinary. They understand the value in the early morning workout, even when energy is low. They write when the page feels blank. They prepare meals instead of reaching for convenience. They follow up, organize, and stay on track, even when no one is holding them accountable. These actions might not feel impressive in the moment, but they stack, they compound, they matter. The path to greatness doesn't require extraordinary talent. It requires extraordinary consistency. Anyone can work hard for a day or two, but doing it again the next day, and the one after that, is what makes the difference. Most people stop when the excitement fades. The ones who keep going are the ones who grow. Falling in love with the boring stuff means seeing value where others don't. It's choosing the hard road when shortcuts are tempting. It's staying steady when the finish line is still out of sight. This mindset shift changes everything. Instead of focusing on quick wins, focus on building systems. Instead of chasing energy, build identity. When habits become part of identity, everything shifts. You begin to see yourself differently. I follow a budget because I'm someone who's in control of my future. These are no longer tasks to check off. There are reflections of who you are becoming. Confidence doesn't come from results. It comes from repeated effort. Every time you do something hard, you build belief. Not because of the outcome, but because of the follow-through. The act of showing up, especially when it's hard, tells your mind, I can trust myself. That power, that's momentum. Forget waiting to feel ready. Readiness is overrated. Most change begins in discomfort. Start tired, start unsure, start bored. Just start. Then keep going, let the routine carry you. Let discipline do what motivation cannot. Over time, the boring stuff becomes the meaningful stuff. Progress hides inside the repetition. Each day might feel similar to the last, but underneath the surface something is forming. Resilience, strength, focus, clarity. These qualities are built, not born. And they're forged in the fire of routine. Success doesn't ask for brilliance. It asks for reliability. Not every day will be a breakthrough. Most won't be, but each small action is a vote for the person you want to become. Stack enough of those votes and change becomes inevitable. Let others chase moments of glory. Choose the path of quiet progress. Lay the brick, show up early, do the rep. Make the call, write the page, keep going. Ordinary actions, when done consistently, produce extraordinary outcomes. Fall in love with the process. Because the process is where everything happens. That's not glamorous, but that's the truth. The power of saying no in a world that constantly demands more. More attention, more availability, more commitment. The ability to say no becomes a rare and powerful skill. Every time you agree to something that pulls you off course, you're quietly walking away from something that could have moved you forward. Whether it's a meeting that doesn't matter, a social event you don't care to attend, or a task that doesn't align with your goals. Saying yes to the wrong thing is saying no to the right one. Invitations come from every direction. Friends, co-workers. Everyone wants a piece of your time, your energy, your focus. And in the name of being polite, agreeable, or just afraid to disappoint, too many people say yes by default. But what seems like a small harmless agreement is often a seed of distraction. And over time, those seeds grow into clutter that chokes out what truly matters. The people who rise above this noise, the ones who seem calm, focused, and unshakably aligned, aren't superhuman, they're just deliberate. They've learned to say no, and not with guilt or apology. They say it with clarity, with intention, not because they think they're too good for something, but because they know exactly what they're working toward. They say no out of alignment, not arrogance. Focus isn't something you find. It's something you protect. And protection requires boundaries. If you don't defend your time, someone else will fill it for you. If you don't filter what enters your calendar, your mind, your world, you'll be buried in things that don't belong there. It doesn't take much to become overwhelmed. A few too many obligations. A few yes that felt polite in the moment. And suddenly, you're living a life dictated by the expectations of others, not the vision you had for yourself. Picture a garden. If you scatter too many seeds in one small patch of soil, none of them grow strong. They fight for sunlight, for water, for space. Eventually, they crowd each other out. Your time is that soil. If you allow every possibility, every opportunity, every request to take root, you end up with chaos. You don't need more seeds. You need to protect the space around the ones that truly matter. Because only then can they grow into something meaningful. Saying no isn't rejection. It's selection. It's choosing your future over your impulse to please. It's choosing your priorities over your desire to be liked. And it's hard, especially at first. You might feel selfish. You might worry you're letting someone down. But if your yes comes at the cost of your peace, your purpose, or your progress, it's too expensive. Protecting your bandwidth is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Energy is finite, focus is fragile. Time, once spent, cannot be refunded. If you treat these resources like they're limitless, you'll burn out chasing things that never mattered. But if you guard them with intention, if you learn to say no without apology. You'll begin to notice something powerful. Clarity. Clarity comes when you remove what doesn't belong. It sharpens when you strip away the unnecessary. And once you clear the space, the right opportunities can finally land. The ones that align. The ones that build toward the life you're trying to create. But they only show up when there's room. Every no creates space. And space is where growth happens. Growth in your work, growth in your relationships, growth in your mindset. It doesn't happen when your calendar is packed and your energy is drained. It happens when you choose wisely, when you leave room to breathe, to think, to move deliberately. Next time you feel pulled toward something that doesn't feel right, pause, ask yourself, does this move me closer to who I want to become? If the answer is no, then let that be enough. You don't need to justify your decision to anyone else. You just need to trust yourself enough to protect your yes. Because your yes is sacred. It's not for everyone. It's not for everything. It's the vote you cast for your future. Use it wisely. And remember, every time you say no to something that dilutes your focus, you say yes to something that deepens it. Saying no is hard, but regret is. Don't build a life full of other people's priorities. Build one that reflects your values, your purpose, your vision. It starts with a simple word. No, not out of fear, not out of anger, but out of strength, out of clarity, out of love for the person you're becoming. Be a beginner again. Success often wears a polished face, a resume full of achievements, a confident posture, a voice that sounds like it's never known hesitation, but beneath every accomplished person is a period of struggle, of awkwardness, of failing forward. One of the greatest traits of truly successful people isn't that they always know what they're doing. It's that they're willing to be bad at something before they become good at it. They don't let pride anchor them to comfort zones. They walk straight into discomfort, knowing that's where growth lives. So many people avoid growth not because they're incapable, but because they're afraid of what it looks like to begin again. There's a kind of vulnerability in being new, in admitting you don't know, in fumbling through the basics while others look on. The ego hates that space. It craves certainty, recognition, and mastery, but progress doesn't happen in the safe, curated corners of life. It happens in the messy middle, where nothing feels easy and everything feels possible. Think about the first time you tried anything worth doing, whether it was learning an instrument, starting a job, navigating a relationship, or stepping into a new role. There was hesitation, there were mistakes. You second-guessed yourself, felt exposed, maybe even wanted to quit. But if you stuck with it, something shifted. The awkwardness gave way to rhythm, clumsiness turned into competence, repetition turned into flow. This is the natural rhythm of growth. Messy beginnings, persistent middle, then mastery. And yet, too many people get stuck at the gate because they don't want to look like they're starting over. They tell themselves it's too late or they're too far behind. But every expert was once clueless. Every master was once a beginner who decided that progress mattered more than pride. You cannot fast-track excellence without first walking through the territory of discomfort. Getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, is one of the most powerful decisions you can make. It means giving yourself permission to be in process. It means saying yes to the class, even if you're the oldest or the newest or the worst in the room. It means asking questions when you don't know the answer and making peace with not having it all figured out. Humility becomes your superpower because humility opens the door to learning, to curiosity, to coachability. No one becomes great without first being willing to look foolish. That's not failure, that's courage. Every time you choose to try instead of retreat, you add to your resilience. You build trust with yourself. You prove that you're not controlled by fear or ego. You show up not because it's easy, but because it matters. It's not about talent. It's not about natural ability. It's about the willingness to take action in the face of uncertainty, to risk doing it wrong in order to eventually do it right. That kind of courage ignites momentum. And momentum is powerful. It doesn't require perfection, just movement, just a decision to begin. Then begin again and again until the awkward becomes familiar and the unfamiliar becomes your new normal. The path to mastery isn't a straight line. It loops and turns, stumbles and reroutes. There will be days you feel foolish, days you question why you started, days you're tempted to trade discomfort for familiarity. But mastery isn't about avoiding those days. It's about moving through them with a deeper commitment to who you want to become. Pride will tell you to wait until you're ready. But readiness is a myth. No one feels ready. They just start, they take the leap, they sign up, they ask for help, they get it wrong and keep showing up anyway. Pride will whisper that you should know this by now. Ignore it. Growth doesn't come with a timestamp. You are allowed to start where you are with what you have, no matter how imperfect it looks. Ego might resist being coached. It might bristle at correction or deflect responsibility. But evolution demands that you stay open. Be teachable, let others stretch you, challenge you, guide you, coaches, mentors, critics. They all play a part in your refinement. Every lesson you accept without defensiveness sharpens your edge. Every time you listen instead of pretend, you level up. Curiosity is the fuel that keeps the flame alive. When you stop needing to know it all and instead start asking, what can I learn here? The entire game changes. Growth becomes less about proving something and more about discovering something. And that shift is everything. Progress belongs to those who are willing to look uncertain now in order to become unstoppable later. So take the class, ask the question, make the mistake. Apologize when needed. Begin again. Because every time you trade, I don't know how, for I'll figure it out. You create motion and motion builds momentum and momentum. That's what turns ordinary efforts into extraordinary breakthroughs. Mastery doesn't come from avoiding discomfort. It comes from walking straight into it again and again until you come out the other side transformed. Be willing to be bad at something. Be willing to look new. That's not weakness. That's how greatness begins. Stop negotiating with your goals. Every morning, the alarm goes off. And in that moment, a silent negotiation begins. It's not just about sleep. It's about identity. When you hit snooze, you're making a decision. Not just about whether to sleep a little longer, but about who you're choosing to be. You're choosing between the current version of yourself and the version of you that exists on the other side of commitment. Discipline and follow through. And with every small note of your goals, you're not just delaying progress, you're weakening the trust you have in yourself. The danger isn't in the snooze button itself. It's in what it represents. That one small act of deferral becomes a signal. A quiet message that says your goals are flexible, your standards negotiable, your word to yourself optional. Do it enough times and you start believing your own excuses. You begin to internalize the story that your best life is just too far out of reach, or that maybe you weren't meant for more after all. It's never just one skipped workout, one postponed project, one ignored alarm. It's the erosion of self-belief. Slowly and silently. But what if you stopped negotiating? What if your dreams weren't something to debate each morning or each week? What if you treated your goals like non-negotiables, like appointments with your future self that couldn't be moved or canceled? That shift changes everything because execution is where transformation lives. Discipline isn't about restriction. It's about direction. It's about choosing the harder path now to make the easier life later. Think about the version of yourself who has everything you want. The body that feels strong and energized. The mind that's focused and unshakable. The income that offers freedom and security. The peace that quiets the noise. That version of you doesn't wake up wondering whether to follow through. They wake up knowing that the decision has already been made. They've built a life that reflects their standards, not their mood. That version of you is not a stranger. It's not some distant possibility. It's already inside you waiting for leadership. Waiting for a series of decisions that say, I'm serious this time, but that version won't emerge through feelings. It will only emerge through habits, through repetition, through small, daily wins that stack into unshakable momentum. Your goals were never meant to be approached with hesitation. Dreams aren't built in debate. They're built in action and clarity, in showing up even when you don't feel like it. The more you honor your commitments to yourself, the more powerful you become. Every kept promise, no matter how small, reinforces your identity. You stop asking, "Can I really do this?" And you start affirming, "This is who I am now." Confidence doesn't come from hype or motivation. It comes from evidence. Evidence that you do what you say you'll do. Evidence that you follow through, even when the feeling fades, when you stop making your growth conditional on your emotions. You become unstoppable, because your habits will take over where your feelings fall short. That's when everything starts to shift. The external results will come, but only after the internal standard has been raised. Feelings are inconsistent. Habits are stable. And if you're constantly negotiating with your goals, waiting until you feel ready, motivated, or energized, you'll stay stuck in cycles. You'll start strong, then stall out. You'll promise change, then rationalize the delay. But once you commit fully, once you make your goals non-negotiable, you step into a different kind of energy. You no longer need to convince yourself to take action. You just act. And that kind of clarity cuts through distraction, procrastination, and doubt like a knife. This isn't about being perfect. You'll still have hard days, off moments, unexpected obstacles, but the difference is, you'll keep showing up anyway. You'll keep stacking wins, even when they're small, and over time, you'll realize that it was never about intensity. It was about consistency. That's where self-trust is built. That's where your new identity takes shape. You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You need a decision, a clear, unwavering decision that you're done negotiating with your goals. Done making your vision optional. Done living in cycles of stop, start, momentum. It's time to own your potential, to act like the person you want to become. Because they're already in you. They've just been waiting for you to take the lead. So the next time the alarm goes off, the next time you want to skip the hard thing, remember, that's not a decision about comfort. That's a decision about identity, and you get to choose. You get to lead. The moment you stop negotiating with your goals is the moment you start attracting the life they were designed to build. That's when everything changes, not because it's easy, but because you finally chose to be consistent even when it's hard. And that's where real success begins. Turned comparison into fuel. In a world that never stops broadcasting everyone's highlight reel, comparison has become second nature. Someone else has already built the business, written the book, hit the fitness milestone, bought the house, found the relationship, and documented it all in perfect lighting. Meanwhile, you're sitting there wondering if you're behind, if you've missed something, if you're even in the right race. That sinking feeling isn't unfamiliar. It's the quiet sting of comparison, and it's powerful, but only if you let it be. The truth is, comparison only holds power over you when you lose sight of your own lane. When you forget that your story isn't supposed to look like anyone else's. That your timing, your path, your purpose, they're all uniquely yours, and they don't require anyone else's permission to be valid. The moment you detach from your timeline and start measuring yourself by someone else's, you give away your momentum. You trade progress for paralysis. You start to shrink in a space that was designed for your expansion. But what if comparison wasn't the enemy? What if it could serve you instead of suffocate you? What if instead of feeling small in the presence of someone else's success, you allowed yourself to feel something more powerful? Inspiration. The people you compare yourself to aren't ahead because they're better. They're ahead because they've simply taken different steps at different times under different circumstances. They've done their work and you're doing yours. They're just further along the road. And instead of seeing their success as a verdict on your failure, you could choose to see it as evidence that your dream is possible. Their progress doesn't invalidate yours. It illuminates the path. Imagine a runner in a race who constantly glances sideways, looking left, looking right, obsessing over who's gaining speed, who's closing in. Every time they look away from their lane, they lose rhythm, they trip, they slow down, they forget their form. That's what comparison does. It disrupts your flow. The fastest runners, the ones who break records and stretch limits, stay focused. Their eyes are forward, locked in, not distracted by what anyone else is doing. That kind of focus isn't accidental. It's a choice, and it's a skill. In life, Your pace is determined not by how fast you move, but by how focused you remain. The more energy you spend watching someone else's journey, the less energy you have for your own. And every second you waste wishing you were in someone else's position is a second lost from building your own legacy. You are not behind, you are becoming. You are evolving, growing, and learning exactly as you need to. No one else's timeline should define your value. You weren't late to your life. You arrived exactly when you were supposed to. The skills you're developing, the lessons you're learning, the clarity you're gaining, these things take time. They take depth. And they're preparing you for something that's not meant to be rushed. Till there will be days when comparison creeps in quietly. When you see someone else's win, and it feels like your loss. When jealousy shows up uninvited. Let it feel it, but don't stop there. Let it move through you. Let it teach you. Ask yourself what it's revealing. Are you inspired by their courage, their consistency, their willingness to show up and take the leap? Use that. Let comparison become a compass, pointing you toward the parts of yourself that are hungry for growth. Let it fuel your ambition instead of feeding your doubt. The goal isn't to become immune to comparison, it's to become wise in how you respond to it. Because it will happen, we're human, we notice, we compare, but we also get to choose what happens next. We can shrink and spiral, or we can study and sharpen. The people who thrive don't avoid comparison altogether. They've just learned to use it. They take notes instead of taking offense. They use others' success as proof that the next level exists, and then they get back to work. Your journey deserves that kind of respect, that kind of focus, that kind of intention. You have your own race to run, your own story to write, and if you keep stopping to check how everyone else is doing, you're going to miss your own brilliance. So the next time you catch yourself falling into that familiar trap of comparison, pause, take a breath, then turn inward, ask what you can learn, what you can admire, what you can let inspire you, and most importantly, ask what you're building that's worth staying focused on. Because you are building something, even on the days when progress feels invisible, even when no one's clapping. Even when doubt is loud, let comparison sharpen you, let it push you toward clarity, toward consistency, toward excellence, but don't let it distract you from the work. The dream is still yours. The lane is still open, the time is still now. Keep your eyes forward, keep showing up. And above all, keep becoming, make peace with imperfection. Perfectionism wears many disguises. On the surface it looks like ambition. It presents itself as high standards, a commitment to excellence, a refusal to settle for less. But underneath all that polish, it's fear. Fear of being seen before you're ready. Fear of making a mistake. Fear of failing in public. Perfectionism is fear in a sharp suit, trying to convince you that unless something is flawless, it isn't worth doing. But here's nothing great begins perfect. And more importantly, nothing becomes great without first being imperfect. Every meaningful creation, every book you love, every business you admire, every performance that moved you began with a rough draft. It began in uncertainty. It began with someone fumbling through the first step, figuring it out as they went. Progress is by its nature messy. Growth isn't polished. It's awkward, it's uncomfortable, and yet it's also where everything meaningful begins. When you're obsessed with perfection, you trap yourself in a cycle of hesitation. You tweak the project over and over but never launch. You rehearse the idea in your mind until it starts to feel impossible. Perfectionism doesn't protect you. It paralyzes you, it keeps your work hidden, it delays your growth, and it tricks you into thinking you're just being thorough, when in reality you're avoiding the vulnerability of starting. But success doesn't come to the one who plans endlessly. It comes to the one who acts, who creates, releases, adjusts, and does it again. It comes to the one who isn't afraid to look a little messy while they figure it out. The most effective people aren't flawless. They're consistent, they give themselves permission to try, and more importantly, they give themselves permission to try badly. Think about your favorite product, your favorite artist, your favorite entrepreneur. Their first draft didn't look like their final masterpiece. Behind every best-selling book were chapters that didn't make sense, paragraphs that were rewritten, ideas that were cut. Behind every great business was a launch that didn't land perfectly, a version that broke, a pitch that didn't get funded. Behind every powerful voice was a shaky start. What you admire now is simply the result of someone choosing persistence over perfection. You were allowed to be a work in progress, You were allowed to launch before you feel ready. You were allowed to improve in public. That's not weakness, that's courage. The world doesn't need another perfect mask. It needs more people willing to grow out loud. Willing to be honest about the journey, willing to say, I don't have it all figured out yet, but I'm showing up anyway. The moment you give yourself permission to show up imperfectly, you open the door to freedom. No more hiding, no more stalling, no more waiting for a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet. Just action, just honesty, just momentum, and momentum over time builds excellence. Not in spite of your imperfections, but because of your willingness to move through them, launching the idea. Taking the shot. It might not be perfect, but it will move you forward, and forward is the only direction that matters. No one remembers the perfect plan that never made it past the draft stage. They remember what was shared, what was tried, what was refined in real time. They remember what was real. Perfectionism wants you to believe that mistakes are the enemy. But mistakes are simply proof that you're in motion. Mistakes teach you more than theory ever will. They show you what works, what doesn't, what needs tweaking. They sharpen your instincts. They accelerate your learning. You cannot master something you never practice. You cannot refine something you never release. Your goal isn't flawlessness. Your goal is improvement. Small steps, real feedback, forward movement. And the more often you allow yourself to show up, even if it's awkward, even if it's messy, the stronger you become. Confidence doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. It comes from seeing progress in motion. It comes from watching yourself grow through the discomfort. There's power in deciding to begin. To stop editing yourself into silence. To stop critiquing every idea before it has a chance to breathe. Done beats perfect every time, because done is alive, done is in the world. Learning, evolving, done creates momentum, and momentum is what separates dreamers from doers. So let go of the illusion that you need to be ready. Let go of the myth that perfect is the goal. Start where you are with what you have and trust that the process will carry you. The more you practice showing up as you are, the more powerful you become, not because you're flawless, but because you're real, because you're in motion, because you're willing to trade control for progress. The world doesn't need perfect, it needs honest, it needs brave, it needs people who are willing to try. And that means showing up before the script is polished, before the branding is finalized, before the doubt disappears. Show up, hit publish, take the step. Will it be perfect? No. Will it be worth it? Absolutely, because done beats perfect always. Lead with service, not just success. Success isn't just about how far you go, it's about how many people you bring with you. In a world driven by ambition, achievement, and status, it's easy to fall into the trap of chasing only your own gain. But the truth is, the most magnetic and impactful individuals don't climb by stepping over others. They rise by lifting others as they ascend. They understand a principle that often gets overlooked. Real lasting success is built through service. The people who build legacies, movements, and meaningful impact all have one thing in common. They ask different questions. Not what can I get from this, but how can I help? Who can I support? Where can I give more? Their focus isn't just on collecting wealth, followers, or praise. It's on creating value, building people and leaving things better than they found them. That shift from self-centered ambition to service-driven action is where the true power lies. Service doesn't mean weakness or sacrifice. It doesn't mean ignoring your goals or becoming a doormat. It means anchoring your work, your relationships, your purpose, and something bigger than yourself. When you lead with generosity, you create ripple effects. You open doors that talent alone can't unlock. You draw people in not just because of what you do, but because of how you make them feel in the process. There's something magnetic about people who genuinely want others to win. They carry a quiet confidence and energy that says, I've got room for you too. That energy creates trust. It creates loyalty. And those two things, more than raw talent or strategy, are what build enduring success. A brilliant idea might catch attention, but it's generosity and service that sustain impact. When you give your knowledge freely, you empower others. When you offer encouragement without expectation, you remind someone of their worth. When you show up for people, not because you need something, but because it's who you are, you plant seeds. And those seeds grow in ways you can't always predict. Sometimes, years later, someone you helped will be in a room you've never entered, speaking your name in spaces your resume couldn't reach. That's how service works. Quietly, powerfully, inevitably. This doesn't mean that every act of kindness will bring immediate return. It often doesn't, and that's okay, because service isn't a transaction. It's a mindset. It's a way of living and leading that says, I'm here to contribute, not just to collect. You give not because of what might come back, but because of who you're becoming in the process. And the irony, when you stop obsessing over what you're going to get and start focusing on what you're giving, everything you once chased begins to chase you. Opportunities appear, connections strengthen, people remember how you made them feel, and in a world that forgets too fast, that kind of impact lasts. People want to work with you, partner with you, support you. Not just because you're skilled, but because you're real, because your presence adds something, because you've built trust, not just transactions. Imagine two paths to success. One is fast, sharp, competitive. It's about getting ahead, being first. Hoarding wins. The other is steady, collaborative, generous. It's about building something that lasts. Something that includes others. One might look like it wins in the short term, but the second, that's the one that endures. Because people will forget your accolades. Don't forget the specifics of your pitch, your post, your product. But they will not forget how you showed up, how you helped, how you served, without asking for anything in return. Success built on chasing tends to fade. It's fragile, because it relies on external validation. But success built on service, that's rooted, that's resilient. It grows, because it's not just about you. It's about something deeper, a purpose, a mission. A desire to leave the world better than you found it. This kind of success doesn't always follow the straight line. Sometimes the payoff takes longer. But it lasts longer too, and it feels different. It feels clean, it feels aligned. It feels like peace. Because when your heart is in the right place, the hustle doesn't burn you out. It fuels you. You know your efforts aren't just for the next paycheck or headline, they're for people. And that changes everything. You were not made to live a life of quiet self-interest. You were made to contribute, to build, to lift. And every time you choose generosity over greed, contribution over competition, alignment over applause, you're building something deeper than just success. You're building a legacy. So the next time you set a goal, ask not just what you want to achieve, but who you want to help along the way. Ask what value you can offer. Ask how your journey can create room for someone else's. Because when you rise with your hand extended, not just your head down, the journey becomes fuller. The wins become richer, and the impact becomes real. Success isn't about how much you've accumulated. It's about how much you've added. It's not about how loud your name becomes. It's about how deeply your actions resonate. So live to contribute, live to lift, lead with service. Because that's the kind of success that doesn't just grow. It echoes long after the moment passes, long after the spotlight fades, and long after you're gone. Visualize like it's already yours. The human mind is a powerful architect. It constructs stories, plays out scenarios, imagines victories and defeats. What's remarkable is that it doesn't always distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined. To the brain, an event experienced through powerful visualization can feel as real as something happening in real time. And that truth holds one of the most valuable keys to transformation, the ability to shape your reality from the inside out. Success in many ways begins in the mind long before it shows up in your life. The most accomplished individuals, the athletes, the artists, the leaders, don't stumble upon their victories by accident. They rehearse them. They play the future like a movie in their mind. They see the finish line before the race has even begun. And that inner movie played over and over again starts to create something profound. Alignment between thought and behavior, between vision and action, between belief and reality. It's not magic, it's mental conditioning. When you visualize yourself achieving something with clarity and emotion, your nervous system begins to calibrate. You activate neural pathways that prepare your body to respond as if what you imagine is not just possible, but inevitable. And over time, the gap between who you are and who you want to become starts to shrink. Not through pressure, but through practice. The act of visualizing is not passive daydreaming. It's a focused, deliberate rehearsal of what could be. When done properly, it becomes a training ground for your identity. If you take just 5 minutes a day to close your eyes and truly step into your desired future, not just observing it, but inhabiting it, you begin to build a sense of familiarity with success. You create a mental environment where confidence can thrive, because the new doesn't feel so new anymore. It feels lived in. It feels like home. Imagine yourself walking into the room with absolute certainty. Feel the floor under your feet. Hear the clarity in your voice. See the nods of respect, smell the coffee in the air or the microphone in your hand. Whether it's a stage, a boardroom, a studio, or a moment of peace in your living room, you are not just picturing it, you are feeling it. And in doing so, you are telling your mind, this is who I am. This exercise isn't just about wishful thinking. It's about priming your decisions. When your mind accepts the reality of success, your actions begin to reflect it. You start saying yes to things that move you forward. You start saying no to distractions that dilute your focus. You stop waiting to feel ready because in your mind, you've already been there. That level of certainty translates to courage in real time. It moves you from hesitation to execution. When you begin to truly believe something is yours, your behavior follows. You walk differently. You speak differently. You prepare differently. Not because you're pretending, but because you've conditioned yourself to meet the moment and the world sensing your internal shift starts to respond. That's the power of visualization. It creates mental familiarity with future success, and that familiarity becomes comfort, and that comfort becomes confidence. What once felt distant begins to feel like a natural extension of who you are. Your mind stops resisting the new, and your body stops sabotaging your potential. You become internally the version of yourself you've been chasing externally. But it takes consistency. It takes discipline to pause each day, even for just a few minutes, and return to that internal rehearsal. Some days it may feel forced. Other days it may feel effortless. But over time you'll notice subtle shifts. The doubts get quieter. The vision gets clearer. The hesitation fades. You start building the habits, taking the steps, and making the moves that are aligned with the future you've already seen. Visualization isn't about ignoring the present. It's about preparing for the future by planting it in your mind today. The more vivid the picture, the more your subconscious accepts it as reality. And when your subconscious believes it's possible, it starts looking for ways to prove itself right. You begin to notice opportunities you once overlooked. You start trusting your instincts. You carry yourself as if the life you're building is already on its way, because, in a very real sense, it is. So take the time. Every day, sit in silence. Close your eyes and walk into your future. Feel it, taste it, stand in the center of it. Visualize yourself not just achieving your goals, but becoming the kind of person who effortlessly lives them. Let that version of you inform today's choices. Let that energy guide today's efforts, because when you can clearly see it in your mind, you're far more likely to step into it with intention. You don't have to wait for proof before you believe. Believe first. Let belief lead. Let your imagination become your blueprint. The world you want to create starts with what you allow yourself to envision. And that vision, repeated and reinforced, becomes more than a thought. It becomes a direction. You attract what you're aligned with. You move toward what you repeatedly see. So don't underestimate 5 quiet minutes of mental rehearsal. Don't dismiss the power of closing your eyes and stepping into the life you know you were made for, because if you can see it here, you can live it out there. Choose purpose over pressure. Everywhere you look, pressure is waiting. It's in the inboxes we can't clear fast enough. In the filtered perfection we scroll past daily. In the silent comparisons we make when someone else seems to be further ahead. We live in a world that constantly asks us to perform, to impress, To prove our worth before we've even had a chance to remember why we started. The weight of expectations, our own and everyone else's, can be crushing. And if we're not careful, we begin to move through life not from inspiration, but from obligation. We don't act from a sense of purpose. We act from the need to keep up, to not fall behind, to be seen as enough. But here's the shift that changes everything, replacing pressure with purpose. When you operate from pressure, you live on the edge of burnout. You chase approval like a moving target, always just out of reach. Every decision becomes about optics, how it looks, what others might think, whether it makes you seem successful. But pressure never satisfies. It only multiplies. Even when you hit the milestone, you barely have time to celebrate before the next one looms. You're constantly asking yourself, am I doing enough? Am I good enough? Will this be enough? And no matter how far you get, it never quite feels like it. Purpose, though, is different. Purpose is rooted. It's not about looking successful. It's about being fulfilled. It doesn't pull you in 100 directions. It grounds you in one. It doesn't ask, what will they think? But rather, who will this serve? What legacy am I building? What story am I telling with the way I live? When you connect to your purpose, you're no longer performing for an invisible audience. You're building something that matters, something that means something to you and to the people who are impacted by your work. And here's what most people get wrong. Your purpose doesn't have to be huge to be meaningful. It doesn't have to be loud or world-changing. It just has to be honest, real, yours. Maybe your purpose is providing for your family and showing your kids what resilience looks like. Maybe it's using your voice to speak truth, even if it only reaches a few people. Maybe it's proving to yourself that you can do hard things so you can help others believe they can too. Purpose doesn't need a spotlight. It just needs your heart behind it. When purpose leads, everything becomes lighter, even the hard things. You're still working, still pushing, still striving. But it feels different. There's clarity, there's meaning. You can endure longer because you know why it matters. The days where nothing seems to go right don't break you. They just bring you back to your anchor. You remember what you're doing it for. You remember who you're becoming in the process, and that memory gives you fuel to keep going. Pressure, on the other hand, drains you. It's exhausting to constantly perform, to wear the mask, to edit yourself for approval. It's like running a race with no finish line. Eventually you collapse. You burn out. You lose the joy, the creativity, the spark that made you begin in the first place. That's why pressure is unsustainable. It demands too much and gives too little in return. Purpose, though, builds. It compounds, it gives back, it lights you up. And when you lead with purpose, you start to attract the right people, the right opportunities, the right momentum, not because you're chasing them, but because your clarity draws them in. People are drawn to authenticity. They can feel when someone is driven by something real. That kind of energy is magnetic. It doesn't scream for attention. It quietly commands respect. To live from purpose, you have to connect to it daily. Not once a year in a goal-setting workshop. Not just in the moments of crisis, but every day. Purpose needs to be present, written, spoken, felt. It needs to be infused into your habits, your decisions, your conversations. When you wake up in the morning, ask yourself what you're showing up for. When things get hard, remind yourself who you're doing this for. When you feel lost, go back to your why. The stronger your connection to your purpose, the less you'll be swayed by pressure. The less you'll feel the need to prove, and the more you'll be driven to serve. You don't have to be perfect to live with purpose. You just have to be honest. Purpose isn't about having all the answers. It's about being anchored to the right questions. It's about showing up not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. It's about being rooted in something deeper than likes, titles, or validation. It's about being guided by your values, not your fears. That's how success becomes sustainable. Not by pushing harder, but by aligning deeper. When your actions are rooted in purpose, You become the kind of person who doesn't just chase success. You embody it. You're not running towards something to feel enough. You're walking in alignment with who you already are, and that alignment creates power. It creates peace. It creates presence. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, lost, or like you're carrying a weight you can't name, check in with your why. Ask yourself if you're moving from pressure or from purpose. And if the answer is pressure, pause, reset, reconnect. Your purpose hasn't disappeared. It's just been buried under noise. Clear the space, listen, remember, and then move from that place. Because pressure will burn you out, but purpose will build you up. And the version of you who lives from purpose, that's the version who creates real change. That's the version who lasts. That's the version who lights the way, not just for yourself, but for everyone watching you walk it.